Shabbat Shalom, everybody.
Shabbat Shalom.
Welcome to Kol HaRuach Messianic Fellowship, which means voice of the Spirit. Okay? And if you would like to get a hard copy of the teaching for today, which is NITZAVIM, just send an email to Rabbi Elliot Haas at gmail.com. Actually, it's kolharuach@gmail.com. Okay, so let's send it to Rabbi Elliot Haas at kolharuach@gmail.com. And Kol HaRuach is spelled Kolharuach. Okay. I ask, Lord, for both me and Josh, Lord, that you would convey what you want to us, to cause us to be changed and transformed by your word. It's your word that does the transforming. Hallelujah. I'm not going to go over the first part because Josh is going to be covering that about you are standing today. This is Deuteronomy 29. Oh, this whole portion is Deuteronomy 29:9 to 30, verse 20. Okay, you are standing today, all of you, before Yehovah, your Elohim, your God, your heads of your tribes, your elders of your tribes, and your officers. Okay, and all the men of Israel, your small children, your women, and a proselyte or the foreigner who is in your midst of your camp, from the chopper of your wood to the drawer of water. Okay. Okay. Now, what I want to share with you is on page 3 of the notes that I gave. So look at those. On the last verse, this here in Deuteronomy 29:11 to 14, for you to pass into the covenant of Yehovah your Elohim and into his oath that Yehovah your Elohim establishes with you today, in order to establish you today to him as a people, and that he is to you God, as he spoke to you and as he swore to your forefathers, to Abraham, to Yitzchak, and to Yaakov. Not with you alone. He's talking to Israel. Not with you alone do I establish this covenant, okay, and this oath, but rather with whoever is present here, with us standing here before Yehovah our God, and with whoever is not here with us today. That's all of us. Okay, all who will be born later. So this covenant is for all of us as well. Okay, what is the covenant? Josh will explain a little bit more about that too. A little bit. Okay, he wants to establish this in you today. Okay, God's desire is to raise up a people. It's in the commentary here. A people in his power to show off his people to the world, so the world will look at them and see God. That is what it means to be a people of God. The only way this happens is in being joined to the covenant and oath he established with the children of Israel. The children of Israel, under the head, who is Messiah, were to be the head and not the tail. Amen. Listen, we lead the way. We don't follow. Okay? Amen. That's God makes leaders. He doesn't make followers. Now, if you're a follower for a season to learn, that's different. You're learning. But then you become a teacher. You don't learn forever. You eventually become a teacher. It's what you do, like our sister said. It's what you do with what you've been given. If you're taught something, teach it to others. Okay, so they were to be the kings and priests in the earth. These verses carry a prophecy of that promise that will be given to all the Goyim, the nations who join themselves to the children of Israel. This is what was meant at the end of verse 14. And with whoever is not with us today. That is the descendants of the children of Israel, all who join to her by faith in Messiah Yeshua. Passing into the covenant connects all of us to the land and our inheritance in the land, which is a picture of a still better New Jerusalem. It's going to come after that. Amen. This is an inheritance. We're going to enter into Rosh Hashanah, a new year, 5782. Not exactly 5782. That's what we've kept, but really it's probably a lot more than that. But 5782 by the Jewish counting, okay? A new year, a new start, a new beginning. Something is going to happen. It's also a Shemitah year, okay? Only happens once every 7 years. It's a Sabbath year. It's a year to be released from debt. It's a year of freedom if you're a slave. This is a good year coming up for the people of God.
Amen.
Okay, every one of us heard that. Every one of us, that little amen there, I heard it. Every one of us has a part that we must do. We cannot hold back. We must be willing. He has called all of us into this covenant because we heard the word and believed in Yeshua that He is the Messiah, the one who was chosen to lead us back to the Father and stand in His light. Not one of us has more to give than the other, for all of us have been made to become one in Yeshua. But there is a respect that must be given to each, and each of us is not held above the other. You hear that? Not one is better than another. I'm sorry, what was that?
I think that's what we heard from the Lord today.
Yes. We share what we've been given, and not one is better than another. We all have our purpose. Not everybody is an apple or an apple tree that has an apple. Some are orange trees. Some are grapes. Some are persimmons. I'm probably saying that wrong. That's okay. Persimmons, or whatever they call it.
Persimmons.
Some are just bananas. I'm sorry.
Aren't you happy?
Yeah. Okay. Every one of us is a different fruit tree. We all have something different to give, but not one's better than another. Each of us make a unique flavor, but each of us together are a beautiful flavor. Okay? Lots of variety. God is a God of variety.
Amen.
Everything about Satan is to make everybody the same. To make everybody wear a mask. To make everybody get a shot. To make everybody the same. Where we push everybody over to get to a high position. Okay? Everybody in the world wants everybody to be the same. Okay? God is a God of variety.
Amen.
He likes variety. He never does the same thing twice. He might do it differently each time, but he never does the same thing twice. Okay, so He's given us His covenant and His oath. And He says, do not walk after the abominations of the Gentiles, the worshiping of idols of wood, stone, silver, and gold. Okay, don't be bitter. And it says here in page 4, lest there be among you a man or woman or family or tribe whose heart turns away from being with Jehovah our God, to go out and serve the gods of the nations, lest there be among you a root that is to bear as fruit gall or wormwood. Okay? It's really important to understand God is giving us an inheritance. We're about to enter into an inheritance, all of us. A promise. We're rising up into His glory and into the promise, okay, that He has for us. The purpose that He has for us. Okay? Therefore, let's not step back and follow like everybody else. Okay? It's important that we come to know Him. Okay. Okay, there's a breakdown of all this for your own study. Okay. Go to bottom on page 7. We are always to remember all that God is doing in us, but we are not to forget where we came from. Now, He's not saying to forget that you're a sinner. Actually, when we ask His forgiveness, He doesn't even remember that we sinned. So you got to really believe that He's forgiven us. Because when we keep bringing it up, it's self-condemnation. It's the enemy bringing it up. But when we give Him our sin and ask His forgiveness and repentance, He doesn't even remember it. So we can't remember it either. Okay? Let it go. Okay? It says here, but we got to remember He came to save us. He came to deliver us. He came to set us free. He came and He died for us. We can't ever forget. Israel was told to always remember what I did for you when you came out of Egypt. Tell your children. Teach your children. We need to always remember the great salvation we have. And that what He's done for us. And this is, by the way, always will draw us back to our first love. Listen, if you know what it causes us to go and live a sinful life if we're a believer? We forget what He's done for us. You know what? If you feel like lethargic or lazy, pinch yourself. Do something wild. Do something that's not like your nature. And ask God to restore that love in you. Okay? He wants us to always love Him. Listen, we're a bride, and we're waiting for the groom. Does that love ever fade away?
No.
Okay, I mean, it's just I go to prepare a place for you so you could be with me. Okay, we are married. We are married at Pentecost.
Yeah.
Israel was married to God at Pentecost, and we who believe were married to God at the next Pentecost, which is in the book of Acts. The Shavuot, the Feast of Shavuot. Okay, so it says, Yeshua is our first love. We were created by Him. We live for Him. If we abide in Him, as long as His word abides in us. We must stay away from bitterness. We learn how to live in the world in Egypt. Egypt's like the world. And because this, we have a hard time changing. But God knew this, and He created a time of teshuvah. We are well acquainted with. We have learned many things. Stop at page 8. We have learned many things over the time that we have been here. And we have been watched over by Messiah, Yeshua, because He has helped us to cross over from death to life.
Amen.
Each of us is dealing with things we are working to overcome, and He is helping us. Let us strive to not lose heart. Okay, so take a stand and be who you were called to be. Follow His covenant. Swear by His name, and that's in a good way. Okay, don't live like an Egyptian.
Amen.
You remember that song in the 80s, Walk Like an Egyptian? It's a great song. But we're not supposed to walk like an Egyptian.
Amen.
We're supposed to walk like an Israelite.
Amen.
Hallelujah.
We're supposed to walk like a Hebrew.
A su
You
nombre.
know what Israel means?
Hallelujah.
I fought with God and man, and I overcame. And I overcame because I was looking to God. Okay? You know what it is to be a Hebrew? One that has crossed over from death to life. So you're all spiritual Hebrew and an Israelite. Walk like a Hebrew. Walk like an Israelite. I like that. It'd probably be a good song that we can make from that. Walk like an Israelite.
Amen.
You know.
Sing it.
Okay. Let's go to the last page of the notes, and then Josh can take over. Okay. In Deuteronomy 31-20, or on page 9, the children of Yisrael were being told they would be blessed and cursed and scattered into the nations. It is there that we will return to God and listen to His voice with all their heart and soul, with all our heart and soul. Jehovah would bring them back from all the nations where they are in captivity, and He will have mercy upon all of them. Then they will get circumcised hearts and will love God, and He will love them and give them eternal life. They will be blessed, and their curses will be put on their enemies. That's the promise in Deuteronomy 30:1-20. Okay. Now, isn't it interesting that this week's Haftorah portion, our Haftorah portion is the portion that's read out of the scriptures that is related to the Torah portion, and it could be out of the prophets, it could be out of the writings, but this week's Haftorah portion is all about the coming glory.
Amen.
He is coming to bring judgment and glory. Here's a prophecy of the coming Messiah to bring redemption to Israel and judgment and wrath upon the wicked nations. It's a type and shadow and a preview of the coming of his glory. This is when the wicked will be judged for the evil that they have done in secret. It will be revealed on all levels, including those who have compromised with the world systems. Then the glory will be revealed, and the bride of Messiah will take on the light of his countenance.
Amen.
This is in this Haftorah portion, Isaiah 61:10 to 63:9. It's really important to understand we are coming into the time of glory. And the sign and the catalyst of that will be the reversal of the election and the president stepping again, being reinstated, President Trump, as president. Because he is
Praise
the
the Lord.
trump. He is the shofar that's blowing. Hallelujah. So,
Thank you, Lord.
Josh, want to come up and he's going to share with you a revelation he got out of this.
Praise the Lord.
Don't leave anyone hanging.
Hi.
Shabbat shalom.
Shalom. Shabbat shalom. Shabbat shalom.
I don't know, there's always something about being in front of a microphone. Just, I don't know.
Right up to that microphone.
Step right up to the microphone. Yeah, it's a good
Praise
song.
the Lord. Thank you, Father.
Praise the
So,
Lord.
just to give a little background, I guess. All of us right now, we're all doing a lot of inward searching. And if you haven't been, let this be a moment for you to get that opportunity.
Amen.
Because as Rabbi brought up, not one of us is above the other. Every one of us has a part to play.
Amen.
Every one of us has a part to play. All right.
Praise the Lord.
That's what I needed. All right, thank you. I appreciate that. So what we're going to go on ahead and do is I'm going to go through some verses with you guys. And as we're going through them, just take heart to what you're reading. Because it's there to teach you, it's there to help you. Something that we now have because we have faith in Messiah Yeshua is that we have the ability to become what he wants us to be and not what we want to be.
Amen.
But when we work at being who he wants us to be, it's then that we find that he's always been making us who we wanted to be in him.
Praise the Lord.
So again, the Torah portion is called NITZAVIM, and I broke down the word Nitzav, which is the main word for Nitzavim, and it means seeds of a righteous family. Every one of us has been given seeds, Yeshua talks about the sower and the seed in Matthew 13. Some of it fell upon the cracks, some of it fell in between the thorns and the thistles, some of it fell on the floor and the birds came and took it up, and some of it fell on a right land, and it produced over 1,000-fold. And because we have this faith that we have, this is why we have to stand. We're not just standing for ourselves. In fact, most of the time we're not even supposed to stand for ourselves. We're supposed to stand for everybody else.
Praise the Lord.
Because unless we are willing to let our lives speak his glory, it's only then that we'll realize that we've always been staying in his glory. So the first part of this is Deuteronomy 29:9-11, and it states, "You stand here today, all of you, before Yehovah your Elohim, your chiefs, your tribes, your elders, your officers, and all the men of Israel, your little ones, your wives, the stranger who is within your camps, from the one who chops your wood to the one who draws your water, that you may enter into the covenant with Yehovah your God, and into the oath which Yehovah your God is making with you today." So if you notice all the people that are there, your chiefs, your tribes, your elders, your officers, even all the way down to your little ones and the wives, and even the stranger around you, that's everybody.
Amen.
That's all of us. Because that's what we're all called to. Some of us are called to lead thousands. Some of us are called to lead hundreds. Some of us are called to lead 50s. Some of us are called to lead just one person. But no matter what, every one of you has that part to play. And when it comes down to it, if you guys can go with me to Deuteronomy 30, chapter 30, verses 11 to 14. Now, each of us are learning right where we are. We're all experiencing life in all of its facets. From the greatest among us to the smallest among us, each of us are called at times that are appointed to come before the Father. Now, whenever we were at the end of our rope, it's then that we reached out, only to find that He was always reaching for us. Okay? And in Deuteronomy 30, verses 11 to 14, it states, "For this commandment which I am commanding you today is not difficult for you, nor is it far away. It is not in heaven that you could say, 'Who will go up to heaven for us and get it for us and proclaim it to us, so that we may follow it?' Nor is it beyond the sea that you could say, 'Who will cross the sea for us and get it for us and proclaim it to us, so that we may follow it?' On the contrary, the word is very near to you. It's in your mouth and in your heart that you may follow it." And now I get what Rabbi means when he says that God always changes the teaching, right? Take heart to that, guys. The word is very near to you. It's in your heart and it's in your mind to do it. They say that the heart is female and that the mind is male. And this is a Hebraic saying. And they say that when you do this, you actually become a complete person.
Hallelujah.
So when we live with our heart and our mind together, things change. You can become something greater. Bless you.
We do with our mind and process it in our heart.
Yes. The Rabbi said. Isaiah 49, verses 6 and 7. Now, something we're going to go through here from here is that God is always drawing us closer to Him. He's always drawing us in, and He's always reaching out to us while we reach to Him. And He says, "Is it a small thing that you should say, 'My servant, to raise up the tribes of Jacob and to restore the protected ones of Israel'? I will also make you a light of the nations, so that my salvation may reach to the ends of the earth. This is what the Lord, the Redeemer of Israel, its Holy One, says to the despised one, to the one abhorred by the nations, to the servant of rulers. Kings will see and arise, and princes will also bow down, because of the Lord who is faithful, the Holy One of Israel, who has chosen you." Then we're going to go to John chapter 20, verses 25 to 31.
What page on all the scriptures?
I'm sorry, guys. We're on page 2. Or, I think it's page 3. Yeah, page 3. My apologies.
No, it's actually page 4.
Oh, okay. Sorry, page 4. Page 4. Sorry.
Page 4. In the middle, page 4.
Yeah, you can tell I'm still learning. Okay, so John chapter 20, verses 25 to 31. So the other disciples were saying to him, "We have seen the Lord." But he said to them, "Unless I see his hands and the imprint of the nails, and put my finger in the place of his side, I will not believe." 8 days later, his disciples were again inside, and Thomas was with them. And Yeshua came, having the doors been shut, and stood in their midst and said, "Peace be with you." And then he said to Thomas, "Place your finger here and see my hands, and take your hand and put it into my side. And do not continue in disbelief, but be a believer." Thomas answered and said to him, "My Lord and my God." And Yeshua said to him, "Because you have seen me, have you now believed? Blessed are they who did not see and yet believed." So then many other signs Yeshua also performed in the presence of his disciples, which are not written in this book, but these have been written, so that you may believe that Yeshua is the Messiah, the Son of God, and that by believing you may have life in his name. See, we don't have the opportunity to have what Thomas had. We only have the ability to have faith. We read the scriptures and we take heart to everything that God is doing. You know, we've got to be willing to change. That's a part of having a circumcised heart. That's a part of having that opportunity to become something more than yourself. You know, if you're not consistently searching on the inside, how are you going to change? Even moreover, how is he going to change you? Because God is a perfect gentleman. He's not going to just change you just because he wants to change you. He wants to know that it's in your heart. That's why it says, back when we got into Deuteronomy, that the word is in your mouth and in your heart to perform it. You've been hardwired to do this. And when we get our mind off of ourselves and back into the scripture, when we get our hearts right, it's no wonder why we see miracle after miracle, or the impossible versus the possible. Because he's already doing these changes in you. He's doing it now. You know, I mean, my hope and my prayer for all of us is that all of us are taking it in and that we're applying it. Because it's not easy to apply it. I'm gonna say firsthand, I mess up all the time. You know, who among us can say that they have no sin? We're gonna hop into 2 Corinthians chapter 10, verses 3 to 13. And it states, "For though we walk in the flesh, we do not wage according to the flesh. For the weapons of our warfare are not of the flesh, but divinely powerful for the destruction of fortresses." You hear that? You can destroy fortresses, because greater is he that is in you than he that is in the world.
Praise the Lord.
And we are destroying arguments and all arrogance raised on the knowledge of Elohim, of God. And we are taking every thought captive to the obedience of Messiah. And we are ready to punish all disobedience whenever your obedience is complete. See, when we're not searching our hearts, when we're not doing those things, we're not being obedient. Because we're sitting there thinking, I don't need to change. I'm good just the way I am. I know I'm guilty of that. Anybody else here guilty of that? You know, so when we are obedient, our obedience is made complete through Messiah Yeshua. You know, even the Apostle Paul states that in my weakness, he is made strong. And it states, okay, so if anyone is confident, if anyone is confident in himself that he is Messiah's, have him consider this again within himself, that just as he is Messiah's, so too are we. So count the cost. That's what he's basically telling you, count the cost. You know, we walk into this faith, and a lot of times we're told that everything is going to be hunky-dory, it's going to be easy. But it's never easy. I mean, I can tell you right now, if it wasn't for the faith that I've had in Messiah, I probably wouldn't be here still. Because all of us are at fault. All of us are flawed. All of us have made those amazing choices. All right, but going back to the scripture. For if I boast somewhat more about our authority, which the Lord gave for the building you up, and not for destroying you, I will not be put to shame, and I do not want to be seen as if I would terrify you by my letters. For they say his letters are weighty and strong, but his personal presence is unimpressive, and his speech is contemptible. Isn't that interesting? If Paul had wanted to exalt himself just as many times as we wanted to exalt ourselves, we might be great writers, but then you see that person and you're like, I thought you were taller. So it states,
In other words, he's living what he speaks.
sorry. The nervousness, anyway. Having such a person, consider this, that we are in a word by letters when absent. Such persons we also are indeed when present. For we do not presume to rank or compare ourselves with some of those who commend themselves. But when they measure themselves by themselves and compare themselves with themselves, they have no understanding. But we will not boast beyond our measure, but within the measure of the domain which God has assigned us to as a measure, to reach even as far as you. See, if they hadn't have searched their own hearts at that time, they would have never been able to reach anybody else. You know, I mean, it says in 1 Corinthians 13 that if I have all the knowledge and the understanding, but I don't have love, I'm no better than a clanging cymbal. See, this is why, as we as believers in Messiah, we can't be head people, we have to be heart people. Because the head thinks it knows better, but the heart knows better. Because it knows how to move, and it weaves its way into people's lives, and it helps them. You know? If you guys will turn with me now to, we're gonna jump into John chapter 20, verses 25 to 31. Oh, we did read that. Sorry. Acts 3, chapter 3, verses 22 to 26. And Moshe said, the Lord God will raise up for you a prophet like me from your countrymen. To him you shall listen regarding everything he says to you. And it shall be that every soul that does not listen to that prophet shall be utterly destroyed from among his people. And likewise, all the prophets who have spoken from Samuel and his successors onward have also announced these days. It is you who are the sons of the prophets and of the covenant which God ordained with your fathers, saying to Abraham, and in your seed all the families of the earth shall be blessed. God raised up his servant to you first, and sent him to bless you by turning every one of you from your wicked ways.
Amen.
Now, again, the portion is called NITZAVIM, and it means the seeds of a righteous family. And now we're coming back to the fathers of the faith, which is Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. These are the seeds that you have been sown into. We've all been sown into them. So with that, when we open our hearts to God, he does what? He turns us from our wickedness. He takes away the shame. He takes away the guilt. And he does away with that. Why? Because God loves the sinner, but he hates the sin. Now, Yeshua, it reads in the scripture back at the top that it's all of us, from the one who cuts your wood to the one who draws your water. And when I saw that, God wouldn't let me keep my eyes off of it. And then all of a sudden, he just, you know, like the light. Yeshua is the one who is drawing the water. Yeshua is the one who is cutting the wood. And we know this because wood is a picture of what? It's the cross. Right? And then the water is the spirit and truth, right? Because Yeshua says, unless you are washed by water, how will you see the kingdom of heaven? You know, we're also told that when it comes to a man and his wife, that the Messiah washes his bride with the word to remove every spot, every blemish from her. And this is what we are. We're a part of the bride, you know. He is our groom and we are his bride because we are a part of the church. So he washes us thoroughly with his word. That means that we have to be willing at our moment to dive in, to get in there on our own, because it's between us and him. I mean, it does state that find yourselves to be doers of the word, diligently searching the scriptures. You know, diligently, that means that it matters to us. You know, I've seen some people that say, well, you know, I believe in Jesus, and it's like, cool, where's your Bible? It's at home. Or they don't even have a Bible. You know, I mean, when you engage in a marriage with someone, have you ever been like, you know, I love you, but I'm gonna take off with my friends and I'm gonna leave you at home? If we do that, is that a marriage? Is that somebody that you can honestly see living forever with you? So I mean, you know, that's a part of it. That's a huge part of it, actually. We're getting to know him. If you guys will turn with me to Romans chapter 11, 17 to 21. And here's just an idea as to how he is giving us the wood to carry. But if some of the branches were broken off, and you being a wild olive were grafted in among them, and became a partaker with them of the rich root of the olive tree, do not be arrogant toward the branches. But if you are arrogant, remember that it is not you who supports the root, but the root supports you. You will say then, branches were broken off so that I might be grafted in. Quite right, but they were broken off because of their unbelief. But you stand by your faith. Do not be conceited, but fear. But not fear like fear. Fear is in respect. For if God did not spare the natural branches, he will not spare you either. See then the kindness and the severity of God. To those who fell, severity, but to you, God's kindness. If you continue in his kindness, for otherwise you too will be cut off. And also they, if they do not continue in their unbelief, will be grafted in. For God is able to graft them in again. For if you were cut off from that which is by nature a wild olive tree, and contrary to nature were grafted in and cultivated into an olive tree, how much more will these who are the natural branches be grafted back into their own olive tree? Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. Okay, so all of us are a part of the natural olive tree because we were all wild at once. All of us were separated from everything. But God brought us in. He engrafted us in because he gave us water. He showed us that there was compassion. He showed us that he was going to lead us on the right path. Turn with me real quick to John chapter 13, verses 3 to 17. And Yeshua, knowing that the Father had handed all things over to him, and that he had come forth from God, and was going back to God, got up from supper and laid his outer garments aside. He took a towel and he tied it around himself, and then he poured water into the basin and began washing the disciples' feet, and wiping them with the towel which he had tied around himself, came to Simon Peter, and he said to him, Lord, why are you washing my feet? And Yeshua answered and said to him, what I am doing you do not realize right now, but you will understand later. And Peter said to him, never shall you wash my feet. And Yeshua answered him, if I do not wash you, you have no place with me. And Simon Peter said to him, Lord, then not only wash my feet, but also my hands and my head. And Yeshua said to him, he who is bathed needs only to wash his feet. Otherwise he is completely clean. And you are clean, but not all of you. For he knew the one who would betray him. And it was for this reason he said, not all of you are clean. And then when he had washed their feet, and taken his garments, and reclined at the table again, he said to them, do you know what I have done to you? You call me teacher and Lord, and you are correct, for so I am. So if I, the Lord and the teacher, has washed your feet, then you also ought to wash one another's feet. For I gave you an example, so that you would also do just as I did for you. For truly, truly, I say to you, a slave is not greater than his master, nor is the one who is sent greater than him who sent him. If you know these things, then you are blessed if you do them. If you do them. See, in the mind it thinks, but the heart it acts. That's why they say that don't trust somebody's words, trust their actions. So in the same way, Yeshua drew the water for his disciples, but he's also drawn this water for us, so that we can grow, so that we can change, so that we can become who he wants us to be, so that when we go out there, we don't speak under our authority, we speak under his authority. Because on our own, we have no authority. We're going to go to, let's go to John 15, verses 16 to 20. You did not choose me, but I chose you, and I appointed you, that you would go and bear fruit, and that your fruit would remain, so that whatever you ask of the Father in my name, he will give it to you. This I command you, that you love one another. If the world hates you, you know that it hated me before it hated you. If you were of the world would love you as its own, but because you are not of the world, but I chose you out of the world, because of this the world hates you. And remember the word that I said to you, a slave is not greater than his master. If they persecuted me, they will persecute you as well. If they followed my word, then they would follow yours also. Let's go Matthew chapter 10, verses 38 to 42. And the one who does not take his cross and follow after me is not worthy of me. The one who has found his life will lose it, and the one who has lost his life on my account will find it. The one who receives you receives me, and the one who receives me receives him who sent me. The one who receives a prophet in the name of a prophet shall receive a prophet's reward, and the one who receives a righteous person in the name of a righteous person shall receive a righteous person's reward. And whoever gives one of these little ones just a cup of cold water to drink in the name of a disciple, truly I say to you, that he shall by no means lose his reward. So there we go, again. Water being drawn and given to the little ones. And the little ones are not always the little ones. Sometimes the little ones are people that are adults already. And they're coming into the faith. They need milk. They can't handle the meat. They need simple. They need easy. I've been learning this on my own. As many of you guys know, I have a dog. And sometimes I've tried talking to my dog, but I know my dog doesn't understand. But to me, it would help me to learn, or like when I've chatted with even the little ones that come in, they just want to be loved. They want to be cared for, but they also want to be taught something. When we reach out, we need to be patient with each other. And sometimes it's hard to be patient. I've had to learn that, and it's freaked me out. Like I have so much love for those of you that have kids, because kids are not easy. Kids are hard, but in the same way, this is the same way that it is with God working with us. He's washing us thoroughly on the inside so that he can become more in us, and so that we can walk in him. And if you guys will go with me now to Hebrews chapter 2, verses 7 through 11. And we're almost done. I'm sorry that I'm taking too long, but I'm working. All right, so it says, you have made him a little lower, while lower than angels, and you have crowned him with glory and honor. You have put everything in subjection under his feet. For in subjecting all things to him, he left nothing that is not subject to him. But now we do not see all the things subjected to him, but we do see him who was made for a little while lower than the angels, namely Yeshua, because of his suffering death, crowned with glory and honor, so that the grace of God he might taste death for everyone. For it was fitting for him, for whom all are all things, and through him all things, in bringing many sons to glory, to perfect the originator of their salvation through sufferings. For both he who sanctifies and those who are sanctified are all from the Father. For this reason he is not ashamed to call them brothers and sisters, saying, I will proclaim your name to my brothers. In the midst of the assembly I will sing your praise. And again I will put my trust in him. Always put your trust in him. Messiah came to bring us back to the gospel of the kingdom, i.e., to love Yehovah your God with all of your heart, soul, and strength, and to love your neighbor as yourself. His times and his seasons are so that we meet with him at the times that he asks of us to meet him. He wants to create in us that which he has always desired, and to perform his word in its time to help everyone be ready for that great day where we will get to be with him forever. And then Deuteronomy 29, 12 to 14. In order that he may establish you today as his people, and that he may be your God, just as he spoke to you, and as he swore to your fathers, to Abraham, to Isaac, and Jacob. Now, not with you am I making this covenant and this oath, but with those who stand here with us today in the presence of the Lord, our God, and with those who are not with us here today. It's in order. You know, he's proposing it. He's asking you. He's not demanding it. He's not saying it's a requirement for you to do this. He's asking you, will you come? Are you willing to come? And it says to establish. When we read the word establish, and it's in the notes that Rabbi gave you, it's going to be, let's see. Okay. Yeah. So it's a part that every one of us must do. We cannot hold back, and we must be willing. See, if you've already accepted Yeshua in your heart and into your life, you can't hold back. In fact, why would you want to?
Amen.
Because you are so in love with him at that point that you would just go everywhere with him. That's a part of why it states that, you know, if you cause even one of these little ones to lose faith, it would be better that you had a chain wrapped around your neck and a millstone and you were thrown into the middle of the ocean. The enemy wants to stop this. He wants to stop it.
Right?
That's how you know you're on the right path, though.
Amen.
Because the enemy doesn't attack you when everything is going great for you. He attacks you the moment you make a mistake, the moment you fall short, the moment you go on a different path. But God is doing this in you so that you will be ready to stand, even at the moment that you have fallen short. Why? Because just like it says in John chapter 1, or 1 John 1, you know, if we will come to him and state our sin, he is righteous and kind to forgive us of our sin. And you also heard from Rabbi that the moment that he forgives you, it's gone.
Amen.
It's gone.
Hallelujah. Party.
And that's a part of what we're doing. Now, one of the other words that also means to stand that I also found in the scripture is that, you know, it states in verse 14 that he is going, not alone with you am I making this covenant and this oath, but with those of us who are here today in the presence of the Lord our God, and with those who are not here today. Now, the other word that states standing is the word omed. And this actually means to be a people of heart. A people of heart. Because when he becomes the one who leads us, he is the one who's showing us how to have a heart, but not our heart, but his heart.
What's the bottom of page 5?
Yeah, it's at the bottom of page 5. Sorry, it's because I don't have page numbers. I'm sorry. But to bring it to a close, Abba is always working on us and in us to help us to become who he has called us to be through Messiah Yeshua. He always wanted us to come to the table of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, returning us to the fathers of the faith.
Amen.
Every one of us has a stand that we have to take, a moment where we have to say enough is enough, where we let go of ourselves and let God show us who he wants us to be. Now, we've been going through this time of teshuvah, of repentance, of return. And we've been doing a lot of inward searching so that we can present ourselves to the King without spot or blemish. And that's what it means to take a stand. You know, when we read things, when we learn about things at first, if we didn't have a teacher, then we would be like wandering on our own. But here, God is bringing us in, and it's because we're paying attention to, Torah, which is not law but instruction. Because he's telling his children how to live in this place. And all of the craziness that's in it cannot stand against it. That's why it says, no weapon formed against you shall prosper. Because when you keep your eyes on the scripture, when you keep your eyes on Yeshua, you don't lean to the right or to the left. You don't try to go ahead of him. You don't try to go behind him. You walk with him. Then nothing will be able to stand against you. Because you'll be walking at that point out of your disobedience and into obedience. And this is something I myself am even learning. I'm learning it all the time, and I know that many of you are much more learned in this than I am. But the beauty of it is that we're all going through it together.
Amen.
A little pun on what we've been having to deal with for the last year. But I thank you guys for the opportunity, and Shabbat Shalom.
Very good job.
Okay, stay here.
Go for it. Let's stay here. Okay. This revelation here is in Deuteronomy 29, primarily 9 to 11. Okay. He says, "You stand today." Like what he was saying. Seeds of righteous family also means to stand. Okay. All of you before Yehovah your Elohim, your chiefs of your tribes. Actually, what it says is the chiefs of the tribes. That's one. Your elders, your officers, all the men of Israel, your little ones, your wives, and the stranger who is in the camp. And the stranger is defined as the one who chops your wood and the one who draws your water. God gave 6 days for man, and the 7th is his kingdom. Okay. The 7th one here is the stranger or the foreigner that has become a part of you. And he describes them as the one who chops your wood and the one who draws your water. And the revelation that he got, okay, is that is Yeshua. Okay. Remember, these are physical people, but these are the ones standing. Okay, this is us. Okay, this is all of us, and this is our Messiah. Okay, for all time. Okay, and that he is the one that is working us over, like with chopping of the wood. That was done by the Gibeonites, who craftily joined themselves to Israel. It was also done by a group of people in the time of Moses, Gentiles. Okay, so, and they're the ones that draws your water. And he's just saying, this is also Messiah. Now, in reality, when we follow Messiah, we're no longer part of everything else. We become the stranger to the rest.
Yeah.
Okay, and we become like the foreigner to the rest, but in reality, we're doing something very great when we're following after him. He said, like Josh was presenting, that we need to wash each other's feet. He says, you have no part in me unless you do this. And we need to help each other. Chopping the wood, another way of chopping the wood is pruning.
Oh, yeah.
Cutting off, okay, and that doesn't always feel good, okay, but it's getting rid of the unproductive parts of the tree. Okay, this is the job that Messiah is doing in us. so that we will bear more fruit. So it's like us and Messiah together. This is a whole new thing. Number 7 here, okay? Bringing his kingdom to the world. And that is a really awesome, I think a really awesome revelation, because I never thought about it. I would just read this and, hey, chops your wood, draws your water. That's what the Gentiles did when they became a part of it. But it's more than that. It's a revelation of Messiah himself. Yes.
You know, I think that's more deeper than, there's more, to it, because I don't know if you remember when we were seeing the Chosen, remember when they were cutting the wood, the disciples,
Yeah.
and they were preparing, they were complaining. They were complaining because they were chopping wood for the strangers.
Yes.
Yeah.
Remember, Yeshua gave them instructions to chop the wood so when people would be traveling and night would fall upon them, they would have wood to burn, And I think it's deeper than that because, the drawing of the water, it's a lot deeper because who is the water? It's Yeshua. He's the one, he says, so it's deeper than that. It's a lot deeper than that. I'm sorry, but
No, that's okay.
No,
We are
that's-
just touching the surface.
yeah.
of
And then
this.
what you said the Gibeonites.
The Gibeonites.
Gibeonites. If you go and read that, they were so scared that they were gonna be put to death that they went like, if we tell them that we'll go ahead and chop the wood and draw the water. Well, what was the wood and the water was for? It was for the altar,
Yes.
And even because they have fear of the Lord gave them to the generation to generation, that they were gonna be the ones that would chop the wood for the altar and draw the water, So it is deeper than that. To me, the chopping of the wood and the drawing of water is for the people that are hungry, and have reverence of the Lord, that they would do that, and God says, I'll include you in, just because you have reverence of me, and that you're thirsty for me, and you're searching for me, basically. You want to know me. And he even has that covered for those people that are not quite there, but they're gonna be, he's including them, and I think that's amazing, the mercy of the Lord, how he covers everything.
Everyone. Okay. This is a lot of these things that happen, these revelations and stuff, are just beginning. There's more and more to learn from them. Okay. But God gave this to us in the Torah. He gave it to us at the last words of Moses before he died. Okay, getting ready for the coming of Joshua, coming and leading the children into their inheritance. So Moshe is about to die, 120, and here comes Joshua. Well, 120 being like 120 Jubilees, which is 6,000 years, and then comes Messiah, Yeshua. So there is, Joshua is a type of shadow of Messiah. Okay, so you see, all this is happening, okay? All this is being given here to get people ready. This is more than just about people, chiefs of tribes, elders and officers, men of Israel. It's talking about us and all of us and our part to play in this whole thing. And if we would do what he told us to do, like Josh was teaching, that he's going to make an oath. It's a covenant forever with us. We are all joined. All of us as believers are joined to this covenant. Okay? And Yeshua said, if you don't wash each other's feet, he said you will understand this later. But it's not just about washing feet. It's about really loving each other as ourselves. It's a problem that the church has. The devil brings division, separation. God brings together unity, love, taking care of one another. And this move of God that's coming with his glory, it's not it's not for those who just want to, just do something for themselves. It's for the people to come in, to help them, to draw them into the truth, to see them saved, to bring in the harvest. This is not a small issue. We have to finally learn what it means to love the Lord our God with all our heart, soul, and strength, and to love our neighbor as ourselves. I mean, really love our neighbor as ourselves. Okay, we each need help. Josh, it's like really his first time, I think, of teaching, and I believe it's going to reveal more revelations to be revealed to him. So be patient, okay? He's going to, like a wine gets better over time. He's going to get better and more focused over time.
Amen.
So I thought it was a really first effort here. So he's going to be speaking a lot more in the coming weeks and months.
Yes.
Okay, because the Lord is raising him up for this.
Praying for you.
Okay, so yeah, keep him in your prayers.
Please, because I need it.
Yeah. So Abba, I ask Lord to seal this instruction inside of us. I thank you, Lord, for what you have revealed, Lord. That this wonderful teaching that you revealed through Josh, Lord, about the water and about the wood, Lord. And I ask, Lord, that you help us, if it couldn't be understood completely now, that people would study it and see what exactly he was talking about, Abba, and completely, Abba, in their own time. And Lord, I thank you, Abba, that you seal this instruction, this covenant, that you've given us this covenant, because it says in your word, it wasn't just for them who were there then, but also for those who have come later, Abba. And we are the ones that have come later, much later, Abba. Yevarechecha Yehovah ve'yishmarecha, Ya'er Yehovah panav alecha v'yikunecha, Yisai Yehovah panav alecha v'yasem lecha shalom. Yehovah bless you and keep you. Yehovah lift up his countenance upon you and be gracious to you. Jehovah lift up his face upon you and give you peace. In the name of our Sar Shalom, Prince of Peace, Yeshua HaMashiach, the first and the last, the Aleph and the Tav, the soon-coming King, the one who's about to bring his glory onto the earth, who will put all things right as only he can, as only you can, Lord, put all things right. Also in us, Lord, everything that's wrong in us, Lord, you can put all things right in us, Lord. In the name of Yeshua. Shabbat Shalom. Do we have to close the blessing?
Yeah.
The closing blessing over the Torah. And, hi, Terry. There's seven different groups of people. I think that's pretty cool. And on the seventh one, it's the stranger who chops the wood and draws the water. Remember, 6 man, 7 the kingdom. Okay, the Messiah in his kingdom. You close the blessing?
Yeah. Baruch atah Yehovah Eloheinu melech haolam אשר נתן לנו תורת אמת וחיי עולם נטע בתוכנו. ברוך אתה יהובה נותן התורה. Amen. Blessed are you, Yehovah, our Lord, King of the universe, who has given us the Torah of truth and planted eternal life in our midst. Blessed are you, Yehovah, giver of the Torah. Amen.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.